Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unapologetically You with myself, Tulsi, and the beautiful Kelly. We discuss all things health and wellness. We use science-backed tools that support you and your family, and hopefully it is thought-provoking enough to instigate conversations. Those conversations can get you motivated to look after yourself and the ones you love. Today's podcast has hot topic of the day, includes a special guest where we will talk about him as a teacher and health and wellness for teachers, as well as what they're seeing in children's approach to food and exercise. But before we get into that, support what we're doing. Support what we're doing. Head over to Patreon, or if you don't want to head over to Patreon, head over to YouTube or Spotify. Leave us a review or like and subscribe. You can do things that support us for free too, and share this podcast if you enjoyed it. But without further ado, my favorite person in the world, one of my favorite people in the world,
You have so
Ellie.
many people who love you, and I love you too. Hello, how are you?
Oh my gosh, if you're watching this on YouTube, she's got this gorgeous, like, burnt
What
orange.
color would you call it?
It was
Orange,
like,
tomato, watermelon?
oh, I wouldn't say it's watermelon.
No?
I would say
Mm-hmm.
it's like sunrise color,
Okay, yes, it is. Yes.
right?
Sunrise at the beach. Yeah.
Yes. It's just like she's glowing, honestly. She looks amazing. So please do check us out on YouTube. You can
No
see all
wonder I love her.
the But anyway, how are you? You've got your friend down. How is it? You haven't
I
tortured each
do,
other?
yeah. What was that?
You haven't tortured each other?
No, no, we get along really well. And Jill is her name. She's amazing. She was the um, CEO of the Department of Education here in Australia.
Man, we should have
I
got her on
know.
the podcast too.
Well, maybe one day you can. And
Maybe.
will go really well with our guest today, actually.
Yes.
But yes, so she just has so many her view on the education system is intricate and interesting. And you kind of wish that she had been our teacher from all the way through our schooling. Yeah. But I've really enjoyed her company, and she's been with a few clients with me. We've gone out to dinner with one of our 98-year-old clients, and he had him in stitches, and he was leaning forward in his seat and interested in her. And I was just like a little fork on the sideline, I just didn't rate a mention. He didn't look at me. He was just so interested in things she had to say. So when you keep a 98-year-old who has done a lot and seen a lot interested, that's how interesting you are. And that's my friend,
I
our
mean,
friend.
we're so
I know.
lucky. We're
We are
so,
so fortunate to attract people like that into our little circle, aren't we?
I mean, just that statement alone, you've got me like emotional and like I could
Yeah.
cry, and I'm not even a crier, but you know what, I'm going to embrace this emotional state. I mean, a person to have gone through the war, right, have gone through
Mhm.
turmoil and segregation and
Yes.
so much difficulty in this lifetime. I literally, so like this morning, because obviously it's the morning in the UK and it's the evening for Kelly.
Hmm.
She's preparing her
Hmm.
dinner while I'm just enjoying my cup of coffee. Um, I was watching the sunrise with my parents today, and I actually want to ask you, what is your biggest win this week? Because I think this is mine. I was watching the sunrise with my parents this morning, and I was like meditating, and obviously I was appreciating the orange color, and I just thought to myself, like, life has been good to me. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm old saying this, but genuinely, like, this is from a heartfelt place. Like, despite all of the things that have happened, and for those of you who know me, you know this isn't like a casual line that, oh, I've been privileged and this and that. There have been things that have rocked or could have rocked me, could have taken me down different paths, many,
Hmm.
many different paths on the last almost 40 years, because I'll be 40 in a few months. But for me, I was like, life has been good to me. But the fact is, even those traumatic, difficult periods, I'm still appreciative of them, because if I hadn't gone through them, I wouldn't be where I am right now, and actually accepting all those things to where I am now. So I think that's my biggest
Absolutely.
win. That's my biggest win.
Yeah. Yeah. The realization But you've realized that for a while. So what was the biggest win? Just thinking about that, rehashing that, or
I
was it a
think so, but
realization for
it was
you?
a culmination of I
Okay.
get to watch the sunrise. I get to have this connection with my parents that I know not many
Mm,
individuals have. And like Kelly,
absolutely.
right? You had a really
Mm,
special bond. So it's like with your dad, you've had this really really special bond, but you appreciate your mum a little bit more, right? But it's like
yes,
it's different when you're an adult. Like the relationship is different, and if you can get to that
absolutely.
serene place where you just enjoy each other, like okay, I'm at my parents' house for a few weeks right now. Just I'm just working from home, and I'm like in my room doing work or whatever. I'm just like I'm on my second book. So I'm on my second book and I'm writing away and I just hear them like it sounds like they're arguing, but they're not. They're kind of just bickering.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it turns into laughter and giggles and like stupid laughter. And I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God, is this what happens when I'm not here? And I just think to myself, the fact that they're not even bickering. Like I said, it just sounded
no.
like they were just at a conflict, but they
Sounds like in Australia you would call it sledging. Is it
never
like
heard of
sledging or
that.
you don't know what that means? Okay. All right. Tormenting, I guess, is the word, but sledging is just that little extra, like they do on a cricket pitch. That's sledging.
Makes sense. It
All
makes sense
right.
from your cricket background now that you've brought that up. Okay, yeah, okay, I
Hmm.
get that. And I
So
just
they
thought to
sledge each
myself,
other.
how cute are they? And it's just really funny.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets that access to being brought up in a two-parent household, being
No,
brought up
true.
with parents who still love each other, right? And that is
Yeah.
very rare. And I feel like, yeah, I'm privileged to have that, but also I don't take it for granted to have the ability to share this new connection, this new relationship with my dad and my mom. Like
It's an adult relationship with your parents. It is rare
it's
to
so
have that.
rare. It's so rare.
Yeah.
And like I'm really surprised my dad meditates and like the way he talks about certain spiritual traditions and cultures and things like that. And I'm like, that never would have happened like 10 years ago, let alone 5
So
years.
it's new or
I-
it's something you
It's
didn't
the
know
last
about?
few
It's new.
years that it's developed and we've been
Okay.
having like
Yeah.
really deep and meaningful conversations. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're evolving together, which is really interesting. And my mum's just the queen that she
Beautiful.
is. So she's good whenever.
She's
She has come out of her
she
shell a little bit more.
oh, your mum's a doll, an absolute doll. I love last week she jumped on after we'd finished recording and she came into your room and oh, she was just an angel. She made me laugh
Yeah,
and she made my heart swell up. Yeah, she's just gorgeous.
she's a special one. She is
Hmm.
not named after a goddess for no reason.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what
another.
was your biggest win? Tell me, Hal.
All right. Okay. So I have not thought about it before this, but this is what comes to mind straight away. And it's not going to be something that you'll go, oh, wow. But to me, my heart just swelled when it happened. So there's a little lady that I coach, and she's 96. And I coach her for stability and mobility. So she doesn't have any more falls because she has had some falls where in her house where she was stuck on the ground until someone came to find her. Sometimes that can happen for 24 hours. Not just with her, I'm just generalizing. People can fall over and no one finds them or checks on them for 24 hours and they're on the floor. This happened to this lady. And so my job is to falls prevention. Okay. So we do the most basic of exercises that bang for buck exercises. Okay. So all the things that you always say to athletes, this is your meat and potatoes. This is what you really need to do well, and the rest will come, you know, and we'll do that later. But this is what we need to do. And so that's what I do with her. And today I got there and she was buzzing, like buzzing. And I went, you're in a good mood today. She said, I have waited and waited for you to come. She said, because I've got something to show you. Anyway, she went over to the kitchen and she has overhead cupboards in her kitchen that she couldn't reach before. So whatever was in those cupboards was in those cupboards and stayed in those cupboards. She never looked. And she has learned without holding on to anything, she can now go up on her tiptoes and open the cupboard and get herself out. a nice glass from not the glasses that just stay on the sink that she was using over and over and over. Get herself out a fresh glass. Little thing. It's a little thing,
It's
but
not
it's
a
a big
little
thing.
thing. It's so
It's a big
big.
thing. Yeah. And so it made her day, it made her week because she'd waited a week to show me. So she'd been excited for a week when she's not normally excited for a minute. At 96, her dad lived till he was 105. She said, I definitely don't want to be 105. And when I first met her, she said, I don't want to see my next birthday. And now she's talking about what she's going to do for her birthday. I'm like, this is amazing. It makes me feel good.
I mean, to have
It
that
does.
level of purpose that you've instilled,
Yeah.
and the thing is, you've unlocked that in her. It was always within
It
her,
was always there. Yeah.
right? And then to actually witness a person find that zest for life, find that enthusiasm, it's so beautiful. That is an awesome win.
Right.
That is an awesome win.
Right.
That is an awesome
Yeah.
win. On her
I'm glad you could
tiptoes,
understand it.
on her tiptoes.
On her tippy toes without holding on to anything. She didn't lean on anything. I know. Yeah. Tulsi just did a little clap, and that's absolutely how I feel. Like I did a
Yeah,
little stomp and a
no,
little
I get it. I
go,
get it. I
Rita.
felt it. And just a
Yeah.
little side note, I was coaching one of the kids with cerebral palsy, and obviously they have different associated conditions at that age. He was about 5 years old, I think, when I first started coaching him, and he couldn't high kneel. And I'm talking about high kneeling is on your knees, extending from your hips and coming up tall. He couldn't do that. His core just wasn't strong enough. He just wasn't able to do that. So we worked on a few things, and a few months later, his mum had messaged me and she said, oh my goodness, he's gone to the toilet by himself. And I could have, like, something could have happened to him. Like, oh my God, he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
fine. But he
But
went all the way up the stairs, went to the toilet, and
oh,
that's it. And she was just like, oh my God, something could have happened to him. Because like that's not something that a parent would allow for him to
yes.
do
Yeah.
for a very long time. He was always assisted, he always needed support
Yes.
in everything he did. But the fact that he was able to do that, like, literally warmed my heart. So when you said that she was on her tiptoes, like, okay, let's just acknowledge, if everybody, no matter what age you are, go stand on your tiptoes and stand erect for a few seconds at a time. Do you know how difficult
Yes.
that is? Even for me, I did calf raises, but the very slow, methodical calf raises. And when I first started it, I was a little bit shaky. And then obviously throughout the mobility and the yoga practice, where I did it at the end, and it was very different. So you can't think that you can do something if you haven't done it in a very long time, if you're not used to doing that. And I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people who are able, who are very mobile, who are very strong and equipped, forget how important those little things are.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. It's easy to take it for granted.
100%. So when you see it in a child or you see it in an older adult and you see them appreciate it, you're like, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we do take this for granted a lot of the times. Okay, so
Yeah.
different question, but you know this
Uh-huh.
question. What made you smile this week? Is there anything Jill did that made you smile apart from that dinner?
I was just like I was outside the bubble with that dinner. I wasn't one of the cool kids at all. Um, what she does make me smile. She's incredibly intelligent and so meticulous. Today she wrote a document and there were 12 components and each one had to have 300 words. She spent 2 days on this and she came out and said to me, it's done. She said, except one component that has 305 words. And I went, and I went, do you have to get it down to 300? She said, oh no, like yes, but she's not going to. And that made me laugh because so that definitely made me smile. It's a funny thing to make you smile, but the fact that Jill went over 300 words, like that's like breaking the law. And it and she gave me a big hug and again like a little happy dance. And so it made me happy that she done this document that she'd spent 2 days on. I don't think I've ever spent 2 days on a document as precisely as she has. I know. I know. She's the kind of person you want in your corner.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And she's
All
got
right.
she's got family in Wales too, so that's pretty special.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She's got a connection to both of us, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's a very clever lady, very special lady, lovely friend. So that did make me smile, but I'm not sure if that's the kind of thing you were looking for, if
No,
it made
that's
me
perfect.
smile.
It's
That
all
good?
relative. Yeah, it's all
Okay.
relative. If it
Yeah.
made you smile, if I don't know,
Yeah.
like for
Her
me,
happiness made me smile.
yeah, that counts. That so counts. And
Okay.
have you
Good.
noticed that sometimes if you know a person's down, you try and do something that would make them smile anyway, no matter how goofy you seem? Like you just want the
Yeah.
person that you care about to smile. So no,
Yeah.
that's a win. That's a win. So the other day, I know you didn't ask me, but I'm just gonna put my own story in as well. So the other day, I've been getting all these different signs.
Going to ask.
I have I
I
have
was
never
gonna.
seen
Yeah.
ladybugs in winter. I thought it's the spring, summer type of thing, like
Yeah,
possibly
I
autumn
guess.
thing. So
But
it is the
winter.
beginning
Yeah.
of January. Obviously, this won't air until later in a few weeks, but
That's
I saw a ladybug on the pavement.
true. Oh, that's your special sign.
That is my special sign. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But it was smack bang in the middle of the pavement. Like ladybugs are so tiny. I just obviously just noticed it as I stepped over and I was
Yes.
like, whoa, wait a
Yes.
second. Is that what I thought I see? What is the word?
Yes.
The what is that Tweety bird thing?
I
I
taught
thought
a
I thought
puppy
a
tat.
pretty cat. Oh my God, we're so childish.
Shows our age, doesn't it?
And so I know, right? I
Yes.
didn't even think of that. I just thought we were so childish and I loved it. Okay, so that I saw it, but I've never seen, well, no, I have seen it, but their wings were slightly out. So it's like, well, why is it just
Yes.
crawling around? And my mum said, okay, so me and my mum went for a walk and gorgeous, sunlight on a winter's day, beautiful. So she was like, but somebody's going to tread on it. You should move it. And I was like, really? So I'm there, like crouched down in the middle of the pavement trying to get an old rusty leaf just to go, okay, so let's just move the ladybug. But that made me smile. I was like, this is so strange. And I'm going to put
Yeah.
a challenge up to our audience.
Okay.
If there is a situation that you're uncertain about a decision that you're unsure which path to take, I challenge you and look for a sign, ask for a sign, like literally put it out there and say, I want to see, I don't know, this animal or this specific sign. And it has to be rare. It can't be like, oh, I want to
Yes.
see a cloud in the sky. No, it has to be
Yeah.
very specific and very rare.
Yes.
So
Yes.
something that you wouldn't normally see on the street, for example, or in your
Yes.
day-to-day life. So ask for a sign and then let it go. And when you get that sign, it will either confirm which path you should take. So that's my little challenge. I want you to hopefully make you smile and take that right direction if you're uncertain about it.
It
Then,
works.
last question. What is your
Mm.
intention this week, Cal? Have you got an intention?
It has been pouring with rain. As soon as it's sunny, Jill and I have a list of things that we had planned on doing when she got up here. She brought the rain with her, and it has been pouring with rain. Still nice and warm. So
Yeah.
even if you go out in the rain, it's just like a warm shower, but you get drenched. And so we haven't really gone out and done anything that's on our list. So my intention is to fulfill this list. We might be doing a fair few things in one day if the sun comes out. But that's my intention. What about yours?
Oh, good question. So I was thinking about this during meditation and I thought to myself,
Uh-huh.
what would be my intention? And then I said, be the very best version of myself today.
Oh, you always have the best unintentions.
And
Mine's
then
like
I
feed my
thought,
face.
no, and then my inner voice, my higher self said, that's too
Yeah,
vague.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, then. So
Oh,
during my podcast, I want to be the best version of myself. During
oh, you always are.
my workout or, whatever I'm doing later, I want to put the best version of myself across there. So I feel the best version of myself is being present. When I'm present, when I'm
Yes.
engaged in what I'm doing, I end
Yes.
up, and that the intention, I feel like I don't need to as it doesn't need to be a reminder. It just can just be in that background. And I'm going to be obviously doing a presentation for a corporate company later on next month, I think it is. So I haven't actually completed it. So when I
Mm-hmm.
approach that later on today, I want to be the best version of myself within that little context. So little
Yes.
things, how can you fold a t-shirt? Wow. Or, how could you do little things? Wow. So I feel like life is an accompaniment of all the mundane little things, but if you can make those
Mm-hmm.
little mundane things very good, that's what life is about. It's a culmination of
I
those
am
things, right?
on board with that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I was preparing the room for Jill to come, our guest room, I Googled how to roll a towel like a hotel, and you know how they tuck it in and roll. So
You
she
didn't
loves
make a
purple.
swan.
That might have been beyond my skill set, but rolling was still challenging, but it ended
Okay.
up, I could do it.
Yay.
So
Did you take a
yeah.
picture?
So I did not, but I
Oh,
can do it again and take a photo for you of my rolled up towel,
no, I want a
should you really
swan
want that to. Oh, you want a swan? All right, that might be funnier. I'll send you the swans.
with petals
Okay.
and everything.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I'm
We used
joking.
to
I'm
get
joking.
one. No, no, no. It's funny because that's what they do in Bali and probably a lot of other places. But when we
Mm.
went to Bali, every time we came back to the room, like every time we came back to the room, not just at nighttime, there was a different animal towel or towel animal. There was elephants, there was swans, there was wombats, there was birds, all different
That's
kind of birds.
clever.
And not just one towel, it was like many towels
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
combined to make,
yeah.
yeah, it
That's
was an
so
art form.
creative. Like, I
It
appreciate
is.
when they put
I
creative.
do too.
I've never
Yeah.
seen it. I've just seen it on like pictures and like obviously go on
Oh,
holiday and they're like, this is what your room will be like. But I
yeah,
don't think I've ever had that. But I need to upgrade my holidays, obviously. But I thought that was it's really creative by the people who obviously
it is.
they're doing
Yeah.
the best that they can in what they're doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
What can I do? What would the best version of me would do? Ugh. What would the best version of me do with this towel right now?
Exactly. Or
Me, I would roll it, but
but then the thing is, I was reading this the other day, and it said if we as humans don't um, expand our energy into a creative outlook, it becomes
hmm
kind of stifled and it
mm,
can turn into lower vibrations like anger or
mm.
frustration and things like that. So
Frustration for sure. Yeah,
actually, creativity is a really good outlet. And
it
look
is.
at all the
Hmm.
magical things that you can create. Like it could be
Hmm.
anything. Like look at
Hmm.
children who imagine the floor is lava, for example. Like that is
You
brilliant.
don't do that?
No, I haven't done that in a while.
Sometimes I do. Okay.
Kelly's face was so freaking serious right then. It was hilarious. Okay. Um, I loved that. Let's move on to our special
Okay.
guest. And this is
Yes, we
going to be
should.
so super interesting. So, like me, as always, all I'm going to do is grill. So, let's invite our guest and let's check back in on our health motivational tip of the day. Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for joining Unapologetically You today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I'm so glad I've got Sam here. Like Sam and I haven't officially met. This is the first time we're actually meeting, but he's got an incredible podcast. So I'm going to link that podcast in the show notes. So in the description box, whether you're listening this on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, it is in the description box. So please go check it out because his podcast is incredible. And I will grill him on some of those on the podcast too. But basically, Sam, you're a primary school teacher, right?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, so I want to know, did you always want to be a primary school teacher? Like, what was your motivation behind becoming a primary school teacher?
So my dad was a head teacher. He's retired now. And maybe people would think, oh, that means that, oh, my dad was a head teacher, so I always aspired to be a teacher. But it was it wasn't the opposite. But I think even though my dad was a head teacher, I never thought about teaching as a career for myself. I did sports therapy at university. That was my degree. I was big into sports when I was younger. And I think that I thought that it would be something to do with that, like physiotherapy, strength and conditioning coaching, perhaps, personal trainer, something like that. So it wasn't really on the cards. But when in my final year of university, I did decathlon during the 3 years that I was at university, and in the last year I ruptured my Achilles, a complete rupture. And as you know, after that, there's a long rehab process, isn't there? I spent months on the sofa. I got really good at Call of Duty. That was fantastic. But a long time on the sofa, a long time going to see a physio, and not myself for a long time. And after that, I think that was kind of my motivation for getting out there and doing something a bit different. I'd been abroad. I'd done a couple of longer stints visiting my brother in China, things like that. But I hadn't done more than say 3 or 4 weeks or something abroad. And it made me think, right, I need to get abroad. I need to do something different. So I went and did Camp America. So that was 3 months. Yeah, did you do that as well? Fantastic. I did that, and originally I was put with the teenage children, which I really enjoyed. But then at some point, I can't remember why, I was put with the younger children, and I absolutely loved it. It kind of rekindled some of my joy around being around kids and the fun that you can have with them and the laugh that you can have, all that kind of stuff. Because I should also say that when I was 10, I became an uncle for the first time. So I've always been around like babies and young children. So it kind of reignited, I think, a bit of that. So coming back to the UK, I thought, well, yeah, I'd like to work with kids, and primary school teaching seemed like a good option. But I think the other reason I went for primary rather than secondary is it appealed to me to be able to teach a bit of everything. I did decathlon when I was younger because maybe I was kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. Like I wasn't really good at the javelin, I wasn't really good at sprinting, but I was just kind of okay and I could put them together. And I was always interested in a wide range of topics. So I think the primary school piece came in there that I really enjoyed. The fact that you could be teaching writing in the morning and then PE or science or something in the afternoon. So that is the short story, maybe.
I like it. I like it. And for those of you who are listening abroad, Sam, can you just remind us what ages are they in primary school in the UK?
Yeah, so between 4 and 11, typically.
Okay. Yeah.
I teach year 3 at the moment, so they're 7 or 8 years old. Yeah.
Nice. And you in the same school that you started with, or have you changed?
Yeah, I've changed a couple of times. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I trained in one school. I did a couple of years abroad in Spain, worked at a couple of schools there, came back. And then since I've been back, so this is, I think, my 6th year at the current school that I'm at now.
Wow. Okay, so I'm just gonna grill you basically.
Go
That's
ahead.
just my job today. Um, what is your biggest win since you've been a teacher so far?
Oh, my biggest win. I think that's a tricky one. I can't pinpoint one moment, but I feel like teaching is one of those things where you have these really high highs. You also have some low lows, but kind of consistently as a primary school teacher, you are teaching a child something perhaps for the very first time, and when they get it, like that's why so many primary school teachers get into the career, isn't it? Because if they've got their 9 times table all of a sudden because you've shown them the little finger trick, or they've got that, they're finally putting a full stop at the end of every sentence, some of these very basic things, but something is clicked and you see their face light up. Another example is PE. Like a big win was when a child who couldn't do a forward roll at the beginning of my lesson, by the end of the lesson could do a forward roll, and like the look on their face when they've done it for the first time. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool seeing all of the kids' firsts, isn't it? And it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I helped with that. I
Yeah.
contributed to that. And I think for me, I was gonna ask as well, it's like I was reading lately that a lot of adults don't. Let me start again. A lot of
Mm.
adults get frustrated and angry and bitter because they don't have an avenue to channel their creativity.
Mm.
So my question was actually was, do you said when you were in Camp America that it ignited this playful side in you,
Mm.
and I was gonna make a silly joke and be like your immature side, right? All the guys are like, yeah, how much more can I play for the rest of my life, right? But then for me, I remember when I was working with kids, because I was working with cerebral palsy children and young high school kids, just get them motivated and get them the basic foundational skills of how to move and how to move well, right?
Mm.
But for you, do you end up thinking, okay, my job is about creativity? Do you not think, okay, well, I've got the curriculum, this is the curriculum, because the next year of students, they could have a different approach entirely. So does that mean you get to tap into your creativity and go, you know what, how can I do the times table differently today? Do I need to create a Taylor Swift song or something like that? Like, do you end up going away and just be in a playful, creative mode?
I think with the curriculum and some of the basics, I will admit that I don't think kind of the creative side there is one of my strengths. I really don't. And maybe other my colleagues would disagree. Hopefully they would, perhaps. But I think that's something that I've struggled with, to be honest, actually. But I think what I'm good at is being consistent and so maybe not kind of putting a creative spin on it, but at least having a sense of humor about it, at
Mm,
least trying to make it a bit fun.
mm,
Not necessarily I'm making this like sparkly game, or I've come up with this, I've spent an hour creating this activity and I've cut out all the pieces of paper and I've laminated it. Like that was never me, that was never my style. But I think
mm.
my style was one, let's have a joke about it. how
Yeah.
can how can we laugh while we're doing this, because it doesn't have to be this super serious thing. And the other thing I think that maybe it ties into creativity, maybe not, I'm not sure, is just the like the holistic approach, the like what are we doing, but what's the big picture of what we're doing.
Mm,
We're
mhm.
learning our times tables, we're learning how to write a newspaper report, we're learning about forces in science or something. What's the big picture? Like what's the point? Well, the point is you might be really interested in this and you might want to have a career in this field when you get older. You might run a business when you're older. You know, those little messages, those little, I suppose, aspirational messages that we want to share with our children, that yes, we're doing this thing that might seem quite mundane, but what are the implications of it? But that still ties back to you might not need to use this when you grow up, and that's okay. But we're going to try and just have a bit of a laugh and joke about it.
And that's really interesting, actually. So I keep saying we want you're coaching, but you're teaching children 7 to 8 years old, you said.
At
So
the moment, yeah.
how receptive are they to that big picture thinking?
I think year three might be it's the year, one of my favorite years, because it feels like they're just starting to get that, and you're just
Okay.
starting to be able to have those more slightly deeper conversations. Yeah, they
Yeah.
still laugh about like farts and toilets and stuff like that, but you can start to have those conversations about career and relationships. Yeah, you're just kind of like on the border, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And before I move on, I was very curious about I noticed as well, where especially this is more in high school now. So from my experience and the research that's out there, we know there's a drop-off rate regarding girls and physical activity, just
Mm.
because their body's changing, just because there's like confidence issues and things like that. And if it's not trending, if it's not their group thing, they're more likely to shy away from it. And obviously, outerwear, our athletic wear has changed since I was a child. So trying to support them and their periods and all these different things has evolved a lot since I was a kid. So
Mm.
how are you at your teaching level where you are right now at your age? Does the way you teach PE differ between boys and girls, or are the girls a little bit more receptive to a few things than others? Because there is a massive segregation between, I know when I was younger, it was boys did football and rugby, girls did hockey and netball, and I was never interested in hockey or netball. So how do you go around the physical ambitions, basically?
Yeah, interesting. I feel like a lot of work has been done to equalize there, hasn't it? Like a lot of talk around the Lionesses and women's football, and um, even females getting into the gym and lifting weights and getting strong. So that's all good stuff. It feels like, I mean, I'm no expert, but it feels like we're moving in the right direction. We're not there yet, and I'm sure there are many women out there and girls are still frustrated with the offer that they're given, or maybe the expectations, things like that. But hopefully, perhaps we're moving in the right direction. And in terms of like my own teaching, I think I just try and make it very clear that sport is for everybody and exercise is for everybody, and you PE is part of the curriculum. You have to join in, just like maths and just like English. We can't just say no, I don't fancy it today. Like, within reason, you should be joining in every PE lesson, and we're going to try and make it engaging and fun, and we're going to try and make it competitive. So whatever sport we're doing, I make sure, I don't ask only the boys to demonstrate when we're doing football or anything like that. I don't know. Like, I think yeah, we're well past that now, where
So
it's
it's
just
way
so.
more inclusive. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying? Yeah.
I think it's not even a consideration anymore. Like,
Okay.
I don't think any teachers, any primary school teachers, it would even like come into their head. I think it's just so like inclusivity is baked into it, and it's the
Yeah.
same for boys and for dance and gymnastics. Like, we make a joke about that, and like I've had some reluctant boys in PE classes that don't want to dance, and so that's when you've got to make a bit of a joke and show your sense of humor, and I've got to dance in front of them and say, and I've been very honest and said, like, I'm not a very strong dancer either. This is
Yeah.
not this is not what I'm
You
good
give it a
at.
go anyway.
But I'm going to give it a go anyway, and I'm going to have a
Yeah.
smile, and we're going to just have a bit of a joke. I sound like I'm trying to make out like I'm teacher of the year, and I'm not. Like, I have my weaknesses for sure,
We'll
but
get there. We'll get there. We're
yeah,
just giving the
okay.
highlights at this point. Well, it's really funny you say that, Sam, because really, I was listening to a few other people who basically were objecting the way that toys are still advertised, the way that certain colors are still advertised, the way that children's clothes are portrayed for certain genders. And a lot of the conversation was about, well, wait a second, we're in 2024. And so when you're saying actually we're not having these there is no real consideration because it's trying to be as inclusive as possible. Well, from a very young age, parents have already gone, okay, let's do a gender reveal, which is like, what is that? Because we don't know what they're going to choose to be as they get older. So it's almost like, I don't know if there's something that's trending on social media, but then that actually goes against the progression of where we need to be as a society. But then there's also how we've been brought up, right? If we've been brought up in a good home or like a two-parent family, we think that's the norm. We don't know the norm of a divorced couple or people who have been torn away from their home. So I think we're like, this is probably another podcast that we're going into, but it's just like, I just wanted to delve a little bit more into health and wellness for kids. I know in the Nordic countries, they talk about they're less rigid of a classroom schedule. They're more, let's go outside and explore. For the first couple of years at least. Obviously not in your year that you're teaching now, but what do you see in terms of the trends from when you were a kid, and also we're young kids viewing their own health and wellness in terms of their relationship to exercise, their relationship to nutrition. And maybe, obviously, it depends upon the parents and what they're teaching their kids. But what are you seeing generally in terms of their own nutrition and exercise? Do you see any difference to when you were younger?
I think we've got a long, long way to go still.
Okay.
Yeah,
Unpack that for me.
um, I think we're kind of like we're saying the right things maybe in education and at schools. We're talking about healthy eating and we're talking about exercise, but maybe we're not doing it. Um, like, yeah, we can tick a box and do a presentation in front of primary school children about healthy eating, and we can mention that, yeah, we should be getting this amount of exercise. But then if at the same time we're only offering children 1 hour of PE a week and the rest of the time expecting them to be sat down at a table, then something's not quite right there, is there? And I completely understand that, I'm in the same position as a teacher, that we've got some constraints and we've got suggested timetables and we've got a curriculum to cover. But lots of people, it pains them. It pains them, the fact that we're getting children just to sit down for 5 hours out of the day. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it. And you mentioned Nordic countries, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that in Norway, Sweden, these places, they are outside and they're playing. I'm pretty sure they don't, they're playing up until they're 7, aren't they? And they
Yeah.
don't actually start like a more formal lessons and things until that age, and up to 7 it is just play. I think that's the last I heard. I don't know if it's still the case now, but my children, they, if the sun is shining, I say the sun is shining, so what do we need to do? And they say go outside. And so I think the onus is on us as individuals to kind of make some of those connections. I talk to my children about how important it is to move our bodies. I talk to them about the fact that if the sun is shining, we want to get outside. We need that vitamin D, and we need the sunshine. It's so good for us. And so I will take that break in the afternoon. That is not part of the timetable, but we will get outside and move our bodies and then come back in. But still, there's way more we could be doing. And then in terms of nutrition, I mean, just a quick walk around school canteens, we'll see that there's still a long way to go. I know Jamie Oliver did a lot perhaps to shake up the school meals and showed some improvement, but still it's a lot of processed food. It's a lot of white pasta, white bread. It's a lot of sugary sweets and cakes and things for dessert at every single meal. And it's like, we could be serving a lot more whole foods. We could be serving more whole grains. We could be serving more beans, and we could be serving a lot more fruit. So we can kind of talk the talk, but I think there's still a long way to go in terms of walking the walk.
Wow, what an honest answer. Thank you so much for revealing that, because sometimes it's, we feel justified that we need to back up where we're working and the things that are going right, rather than revealing actually these things need to be worked on, these things need to be improved. But unless they're brought to the light, how do we know, right? So thank you so much for that honest answer. And I know that you said you were doing decathlons, so you're into your fitness, you look like you've trained continually, but
Well,
then
thank you.
how do you prioritize your own health and wellness when you're teaching? And you say obviously you work about 4 days of the week, but do you prioritize your own extracurricular activities? Like, do you get yourself out there, and what things do you do for your own mental and physical wellness?
I think maybe friends and family would say that's all I do is prioritize myself. But I am in a position where I am a 36-year-old man who's single and with no children. So it's very different to me. So who am I to kind of, I don't know, tell anyone how easy it is to fit in exercise and extracurricular activities? And like anything that I say, I'm putting that out there, that I completely understand that people have got very different situations, much more demanding careers. They've got a family to look after, all that stuff. All I can talk about is my own situation, my own experience. And what can I say? Like, I prioritize these things because they make me feel good. Like, I have certain goals that I want to hit. But just during the week, generally, I know that the thing that's going to leave me feeling the most energetic and the most content and the most kind of ready to teach in school, but also the most ready to meet up with family and see friends and stuff, is these little things that I put in place during the week. So yeah, fitness is a big part of my life, and that's because it provides a framework. It provides focus for me. It provides a goal for me. And so while I'm at this stage of my life where there are other kind of, family things that, my own family I haven't started yet. And so I can start laying some foundations now, can't I? I can get really healthy so that when I do have children, I'm like the best version of myself for them. I tweeted something the other day about, people talk about getting summer body ready, don't they? And I said, oh no, I'm not getting summer body ready. I'm getting granddad body ready. Like, I want to be, when I'm older and I've got grandchildren, able to keep up with them on a run and able to lift them up and throw them in the air and all that kind of stuff. So that's where fitness plays into it. And then other things that I do for myself, I read a lot, and I have time to meditate in the morning, and I devote time to learning and listening to podcasts and watching documentaries. But because I just have so much space in my timetable, that I'm able to fill it with that kind of stuff. But then, of course, I have lots of evenings where all I do is eat popcorn and watch Netflix as well. I'm not a saint.
I'm sure they are sporadically placed in your routine, but thank you for that. It's so funny as well, because when you said, you're prioritizing your own wellness because of your current lifestyle, and that's completely true, because like me and my brother were talking about it. We're both single. I'm reaching 40 this year and he's 42 this year. And for both of us, I remember seeing like the classic Instagram is you see a picture and it's like the single people in your life usually just send a message of going, fancy Africa this weekend, just you can literally pick up and go. And
Yeah.
that is the luxury of having no children, of being single. And I feel like sometimes people are like, oh no, you're single, why? And I'm like, yeah, I'm absolutely loving it, because I get to do what I want when I want, and I work from home, I coach from home.
Yeah.
So I'm able to have that degree of flexibility. And I feel like people forget that, but there is a lot more of us out there to actually go, well, what are we prioritizing? Are we prioritizing a tennis game with friends, or are we prioritizing going hiking up a mountain by ourselves? Because that could be something that like you said, it's really good for your wellness. It gives you that energy when you want to focus on that energy, because kids can be draining. So
That's for sure. Yeah, exactly. And I joke about Netflix and stuff. Those evenings have their place, but I know what will leave me feeling good at the end of the day, and it is something like getting up for a morning hike, and it is getting to the gym and going for a run and things like that. It's true. And yeah, I know the kind of the like the head tilt and, oh, you're still single, Sam. Like, yeah. Like, we don't need any sympathy. It's fine. And I try and say, like, I'm very happy, I'm very content, I'm very busy. Like, I hardly sit down. But then on the other side of that, like, I'm not at the same time pretending like I wouldn't enjoy having a partner, and I'm not looking forward to having a family and all that stuff. So I think there is that balance. Like, I don't need anyone to feel sorry for me, but at the same time, like, I'm looking forward to that when it comes.
But don't get me wrong, Sam. Is it more, so this is from my point of view, is it more from I'm happy where I am? Like, I don't want to change. I know this is what I want in the future, but actually I'm happy where I am. I'm just going to make the most out of it, because that's where my mentality is.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can resonate with this as well. Yeah, it's like that. It's like, what if someone comes in and kind of spoils a party, basically? Like, I've got it all set up. Like, I wake up and I do exactly what I want in the morning. I watch exactly what I want on the TV. And, I've tweeted something a couple of times now about like my top 10 things that I'll do when I'm feeling lonely and isolated. And I said, like, I'm the only one in my friendship group that's single and without children. But these are the things that I do when I'm feeling lonely. And the overwhelming response is positive and it resonates with people and they appreciate it. But you get the odd people saying, yeah, well, I get to watch what I want on TV. So I say that out loud and I go, oh God, I don't want to be that guy that's like, yeah, but I get to watch what I want on TV, because actually that probably won't compare to, cuddling up with a partner and watching some crappy film.
But then I'm just going to intervene on that. I don't think there is a
Go on.
comparison. Like, yeah, you can wake up in your own bed and do starfish and it's great. But then on the flip side, it's different when you don't just have a physical body, you've got another level of intimacy. You've got that
Yeah.
emotional connection. So it's almost like, I think for me, my bar is so high because I'm so good on my own. And it's like,
Yeah.
do I want to spend less time by myself and spend a little bit more time with you? Are you worthy of that? And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm just saying I like my time, but the people who I do value or spend time with, I appreciate them that little bit more, because I'm like, well, no, I value the relationships. I really have family
Mm.
as a priority for me. So I'll go on holidays either by myself or with family or friends. So it's not a case of, yeah, that's not what I want. Oh, we can just watch TV whenever you want. But it's just like there's going to be a different level of compromise, right? I think anyway, there's going to be a different level of compromise.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a huge green flag to say I'm perfectly comfortable in my own company and I've spent months on my own and it's absolutely fine and I can look after myself. It's a big, big green flag.
Exactly. And then I think art, like, I don't know if you're going to be the same. I'm kind of like putting words in your mouth. But I think for me, it would just be like, you're so independent, you're so self sufficient. It's actually letting people in at that point. Like I
Mm.
for me, it's like, okay, I can do things on my own, but actually I don't need to, because I've got somebody else on my corner, on my team, helping me out, and we can kind of work through the challenge together, because I'm such a problem solver anyway. I'm like, I can do it by myself. And it, even for friendships, for me, I found it difficult to let people in, but then I realized, well, it can be a lot easier when you just open that door a little bit wider and just go, okay, yeah, sure. How can we collaborate? How can we join together as a team, right?
Yeah, it's just a fine balance, isn't it? We want to be
Yeah,
open and loving to everyone. But I need to, close the door on some people that are not doing us any favors as well.
agree. I totally agree on that one. So before we move on to your podcast, I wanted to ask one question in particular. Every profession has its peaks and troughs, right? Every single one. So I asked you what your highs were, but and not necessarily asking what your lows are with teaching, just overall perspective regarding your mindset. I know you said that you use physical activity to help get you in a better state, right? Give you more energy. But what has been the largest impact on your mindset, coming from university to being a teacher to focusing on your health and wellness? Do you, and I know the state of being more vulnerable for men has changed over the years, but I still feel like there's, as we tend to see, there's a progression, but until we ask, we don't know, right? So what is it like for you? Where are you in your own state of mental wellness?
Oh, this could get deep, couldn't it? Um, I mean, I think going back to the question about what has had the biggest impact, aside from exercise, aside from healthy eating, aside from prioritizing sleep, it is meditation for sure has made the biggest impact on me. And I think the story of like my meditation journey goes back to being kind of mid 20s, being a very anxious person at that time. I'd all be constantly ruminating over thoughts and imagining worst case scenarios. It was not that my kind of mindset at that time was not helping me in terms of relationships with other people, not a very nice person, not very trusting, these kind of things. And it was my mum that suggested I go and see a hypnotherapist. And I think that was what opened the door to me to to talk about some of these things, to understand a little bit more about how my mind works, to understand that a thought is just a thought and I don't have to be, I don't have to identify with it. And, if you get until it takes until your mid 20s to realize that, it's like, oh man, that's something we should be teaching kid children, by the way. And but also he gave me a CD, you know, of he'd recorded himself, a guided meditation. And it's like, oh, wow, that's what can happen when I slow down and I learn to, you know, not attach myself to every thought that comes into my head and just be present. And so it was kind of an up and down journey after that. But then I'd say maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago from now, kind of took it back up again, through the kind of inspiration, I suppose, of a partner that I had at the time, who was a regular meditator, would I say?
Yeah.
But then got back into it, and you know, that's when I started to put long, like, streaks of days together where I'd be meditating for at least 3 minutes, maybe up to 10 minutes, and maybe longer sessions as well. And that is what has definitely kind of just turned down the volume and just helped me calm down. And you know, the biggest realization maybe that was working is when friends, maybe even family, say like, you've changed, haven't you, Sam? Like you was just see that you're different now, you just seem to be calmer. And of course I still have my moments, I can get really worked up, like when I'm being interviewed on a podcast, I can talk a bit fast and get embarrassed and laugh when I don't need to laugh. But it's just definitely helped kind of slow me down and given me that space to pause and not react to situations straight away, and to maybe go away, think about things, deal with things in a bit more of a proactive, positive manner. So I think that serves me very well in schools for when there's low points, that I can assess the situation in a bit more of a calm manner, and I can not get too wrapped up in my head and just going along with the thoughts that maybe I'm a terrible teacher, or maybe I'm a really awful person because this person's talking about me behind my back. It's like, actually, you have the self-awareness to go, no, I know what's going on here because I've done the work in the background, and I'm pausing and I'm remembering who I am and what my values are, and I know what I need to do to get myself out of this kind of rut that I might be in for a few hours one evening. And I know how to have that difficult conversation. I still find it anxiety provoking to have difficult conversations, but I think this kind of work has helped me. So I hope that's answered the first question. I don't know how much it's answered the second one about my like current state. I can answer that as well if you like.
Yes, please. No, I really enjoyed that you went a little bit deeper into your why of, coming through some of the struggles, because a lot of times you could be like, yeah, I'm fine with my mental wellness, but actually you've gone through quite a difficult period. So you can use that comparison of who you were to who you are now, and possibly who you would like to be in the next 6 months, 12 months to a few years.
I think that is the question, the $1 million question that everyone should ask themselves: who is the person I want to be? And if you can kind of go deep on that and really think, like, yeah, who do I want to be in 6 months' time, and what do I need to put in place to make that happen? That's powerful. But in terms of like current state now, it's still like a roller coaster, like everything. It's kind of like we think, well, I'm going to meditate for a year and then I'm just going to be fine for the rest of my life. It just doesn't quite work like that, does it? I've had some tricky times in the past 2 years or so. Again, I always feel like I should caveat that, and maybe I shouldn't, but I always feel like I should say, no one died. I didn't get a divorce, anything like that. I didn't have some of the worst things that people have to deal with, the really, really challenging situations. I don't have a job like policemen and doctors have to deal with really, really heartbreaking and difficult situations. But I had things that were going on that were difficult for me. A long-term relationship ended. That was a very, very tough time. I had a difficult period at work with adults at work. That was difficult. And so, something that I talk about, that no amount of exercise, meditation, healthy eating helped me in those situations. It was just like, I've got to weather the storm now. It was just like, I'm going through a hard time, and I'm going to have to face that and just kind of get through it. Of course, staying safe and looking after myself and not letting myself like slip into a dark place or anything like that, but just acknowledging that it's a tricky time, and yeah, going for a run won't solve all my problems. However, at the same time, these little habits that you have in place, I feel like they're a buffer, aren't they? They're just a buffer against stress and anxiety and difficult relationships. They just kind of kept me on a more even keel than I perhaps would have been if I didn't have those things in place. Maybe it would have been more tricky. Maybe I would have had to have left my job. Maybe I would have made some ridiculous rash decisions because like I wasn't really thinking straight. But I think those habits just serve us, and it means that when the tough times come, which they inevitably will, won't they, that you're more equipped to deal with them. So I'm in a place now where it's kind of like bring it on. You know, if something tough comes up, like bring it on. Like I'm ready to face it. Having said that, right now, like I'm feeling good. I'm just so busy and got so much on that it's great. At the moment, it's great. Like over the Christmas holidays, I did a lot of work, and the podcast grew like I don't know by 50% or something just in those couple of weeks, and more opportunities have presented themselves. I've set up workshops that have sold out, and it's just like little things like that. It's all good at the moment. Like today I've recorded 3 podcasts. I've talked to a nutritional psychiatrist in Australia. I've spoken to a running coach who's based in Japan, and now I'm talking to you. It's like I wouldn't spend my Friday in any other way. Like how good is it?
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that answer. And yeah, I just going back to what you said is what I found really funny is you said it wouldn't have made a difference if you had meditation or exercise. It wouldn't have made a difference. But then towards the end, you said, well, maybe it was that buffer because your
Yeah.
reactions would have been different. Your probably actions would have been different rather than reacting you're now acting, and those are the subtle differences. I can't remember who actually said this, but they said you don't see the effects of meditation until you stop, but who wants to stop? And for me, when I wrote in my book just recently, and I had dedicated a chapter about meditation solely because it had made a difference for me and my own wellness. And I, much like yourself that you described earlier, I kept ruminating over things. And we don't do this as children. We've learned those behaviors as adults. And then that consumes us. And for me, I would look at Dale Carnegie's books and how do I stop stressing? How do I help my own wellness? And this was way before I even got into the fitness industry and strength and conditioning industry. So this was more about how can I not stress about the past or continually relive the past or stress about the future. And for me, it got to that breaking point, but I needed to rely on meditation and mindfulness. And for me, then I think even now, if I have those moments of uncertainty or challenges in life, I kind of up the dial when it comes to meditation, just because I feel like, actually, what does my body need now? Like instead of just pummeling it out on the treadmill, or not that I run anymore, but instead of exercising to the point where I don't want to deal with it, I'll sit with myself. I'm like, why don't I want to deal with it? What is coming up? And I tend to move through those phases a little bit quicker, or I've got a little bit more compassionate with myself because I'm in that phase. So rather than trying to move past it or overanalyze it like I used to, just let it be. Let's just sit with what else is coming up. But you mentioned your podcast already.
Can I
And
ask about your meditation first, though? Go on. I
no,
want to
say that
know.
again.
Well, just what's your kind of practice then? Like you said that you introduced you've introduced it and it helped. So is it like a regular practice now?
Mine tweaks, and I
Right.
mentioned this a lot in the chapter in the book. So I released a book called Happiness Within, and that's my little plug on the podcast every now
Got to
and
be
then.
done. It's got to be done.
But basically, within the meditation, I obviously relied on it because firstly, I wanted to quieten my thoughts. My head was just way too busy and I couldn't sleep. And then we know, if you're not sleeping, things just get a little bit heated, pressure just arises, right? Frustration is an easy emotion to go to when you haven't had any adequate rest. So for me, I only wanted to meditate, and I couldn't sit there and meditate. I had to just listen to music. So I began listening to music, and I used to religiously put on YouTube, but they would go on for 8 hours. So as soon as I got to bed, this was my routine of listening to meditation, and then I would eventually fall asleep, which was great. But when I would wake up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, instead of going straight into the monkey mind and, all the chatter just ends up creating so much noise, I ended up reverting back to that. Okay, the meditation is continued because I've fallen asleep and now I'm awake. But that repetitive cycle, which is why I kept it going for 8 hours, is I would mimic exactly what my body needed when it was trying to go to sleep a few hours ago. So instead of thinking too much about it, I'd be like, okay, now let's put that habit in place of what I needed at 9, 10 o'clock, and now 2, 3 o'clock, there's no difference. But it was more of a overcoming the fact that I can't do anything right now. I can't, if I wanted to send the email, I could, but I couldn't physically do anything. So why worry about it? But that was a big deal. It's like, it's such an obvious comment to make, but it's such a big deal for people who are used to worrying, who are used to ruminating, who are used to thinking way too much and far too deeply. And now I've had this conversation with another coach, actually a few coaches, but what I now do is I'm a little bit more flexible. So I've got my own channel on YouTube. So I do my own meditations, and I'll share like affirmations, or we do some breath work together, or it could just be just sitting and watching a candle, right? Having the capability of not to quieten those thoughts, but to observe the thoughts and then come back to the breath. Observe the thoughts, come back to a mantra. So it's almost like we're not sitting there in for like an hour. It's just like, how do you use those tools? And there are so many different variations of meditation. You don't need to stick to one. And I never have. For the past 5 years, I would say, I've let myself be drawn to the things that my body and my mind need. So at the moment, I'm using mala beads, and I have a chant that I chant in my head, but I also associate it with breath work. So I do Kapalabhati breathing, but in the night, it's a little bit too active. It's like drinking like 4 cups of espresso to do a
Exactly,
Kapalabhati breath. So at night, I will probably do the same meditation, but I'll do chakra breathing. So I'll breathe through the bottom of my the root chakra, the bottom of my spine, and then I'll breathe all the way up to my head. And if I've done it correctly, I've usually fallen asleep between the throat and the head chakra, or I've completed it and then I've completely fallen asleep. And it's just like you're slowing down your breath. It's almost like you're just inviting that sunset into your brain and body, and now you're willing to rest. So, and then if I do wake up in the middle of the night, not because anything's worrying me, it's just it happens every now and then, I'll go back to that breath. How can I slow down my breathing? So that's where I'm at the moment. Like, it's kind of like I just go with what I need and how I feel, and get called to certain music or things like that. But I am very aware that I can't do it all by myself. Like, I can teach, but I also like to be taught. So I don't need to then go, I wonder what is on the list that I need to do, because coaches need coaches too, I feel.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. And it's like exercise, isn't it? Like you said about you try different things and you stick with something for a couple of months and then do something else. Like that's okay. And maybe some people try meditation and they hear one particular voice and they're like, oh no, this guided meditation, oh, it's not for me. Meditation isn't for me. And it's like, no, no, no. There's so many meditation teachers out there. Like they can listen to you on YouTube. They can download apps and everything. There's just so many options. And yeah, I think the breath work around sleep is extremely useful. Like if there's a night where I'm struggling to fall asleep and I just do like a 4-8 breath, I breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 8 and just extend the exhales. Like I'm not saying it works every time, but a good percentage of the time I'm asleep within like 5-10 minutes after that, because it's just like, yep, parasympathetic nervous system slowing down. Brilliant. Have you tried yoga nidra as well?
I have. I really enjoy it, but I
Oh,
find
it's
it
so good.
depends who does it and how
Right,
long they do it for, because there are actually things come up, like in terms of
right.
like different things come up and you're on like a different journey, and some people zone out. What is your experience of it?
So there's one, and it's an Australian lady, and it's on the Insight Timer app, and it's a free one, and it's about 30 minutes, and it is so good. It just like if I want to have a nap, I'll put my headphones on, my eye mask on, and listen to that. And often I'll be like I'll have my sleep I'll fall asleep within 10 minutes. But there are some times when I'm still awake for the 30 minutes. And so I haven't actually fallen asleep, but I've gotten up, but then I get up afterwards and I feel so good afterwards.
Yeah.
So I can send you the link to that because she's really good.
Yeah, that's cool. And maybe we'll add it into the show notes as well, so everybody else
Nice
can
one.
have an experience of that. Yeah. So I remember somebody saying to me, I remember somebody saying to me, why are spiritual people all female? Why aren't men doing this? And I was like, Deepak Chopra, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I started reeling off all these
Eckhart
guys who are
Tolle,
into
there's plenty,
spirituality
there's
and
plenty.
meditation. And it's just funny as well because it's actually saying, for me, I can't. Oh, so this is a bit of a reveal for me. I can't meditate with guys' voices. I find it too harsh.
It's fair enough.
But I
Yeah.
can genuinely meditate to soft tone voices. So Kelly does this really well, and I'm trying to convince her to do like ASMR or something because she's so soothing. And it's just like as soon as you like just take down the tone, you elongate your words, and they just seem to hum. And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I need some of that just before bed, right? Because then I think some people were saying, I've tried your meditation, but I keep falling asleep. And I was like, but that's a good thing. It means your body needs to sleep and it's actually relaxing you to that point of sleep. So yeah, that's maybe you can try it and give me some feedback on some of the meditations too.
Absolutely, will do.
Okay, so moving on to your podcast, you said it's been an exponential jump, right? But I want to ask you, what was your why? Why did you start the podcast?
Well, I started listening to podcasts probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I can remember like I think Tim Ferriss was the first one I started listening to regularly, and I was like, how have I not listened to this guy before? Why is this the first time? How can I get this much information just into my ears when I'm going for a walk or whatever, or on like a train journey or bus or whatever it is? Like, this is so good. And then I started listening to like Simon Hill at the Plant Proof podcast, Rich Roll, of course, Huberman, all these different people that I started then listening to. And I just loved it. And I think I got to the stage where, I mean, I guess like if you read a certain amount of books, you kind of start thinking to yourself, I could probably write a book. Like, how hard can it be? So I was listening to all these podcasts and kind of, I think one at some point thought like I can give this a go as well. But I think it also at the same time, it was around lockdown that I first set up the podcast. Now, it was when I had a health and well-being company that was for school staff. So we were doing some work in schools, and then we'd set up online courses. And then during lockdown, like a lot of other people, started to do more things online. So I had organized a couple of Instagram lives with people like personal trainers, meditation teachers, nutrition experts. And so did that on Instagram live. And then it kind of, I think it just occurred to me like, oh, I could take the audio and I could start a podcast. And it was one of those things where you wake up at 2 a.m. and you have that like that fire of inspiration. And I remember getting out of bed and I just went and set up at that time of night. I went on YouTube, like found out, I can't remember whose videos I watched, like how to get started making a podcast, and yeah, got set up and put it out there. So originally it was under a different name. Originally it was very much focused on educators and school staff, and it was with my partner at the time as well. And we kept that up for like a good year and a half, something like that. I can't remember exactly. So yeah, that's how it started. But it's only in the last year that I've started to kind of really put my foot on the accelerator and try and get more consistent. I renamed it, opened it up to everyone as well, and said like, look, this isn't just for school staff. This is for absolutely everyone. And also got, at that point, was a lot more comfortable in inviting people on that I really want to talk to, and was confident enough to be like, this is what I'm interested in, so I want to talk to that person, instead of maybe before it was like, I think other people would like to listen to this person. You know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, teachers might want to hear from this person. But now I'm very much at a place where it's like, I just invite people on that I want to have a chat to, and it's good fun. So I think, yeah, that's the short story.
I love that. And the thing is, yeah, why not be a bit selfish? You want to learn from these intelligent, experienced professionals. Why
Yeah.
not bring them on? And then you're asking your questions, right? Like, for those who are listening, I didn't prep Sam at all. I didn't even give him the heads up of what questions I'm going to ask because I
You didn't even
wanted it to
turn up on time.
pardon.
You didn't even turn up on time.
I know. Don't tell them
I'm
that.
joking. That's a
No,
joke. That's a joke. That's a
I
joke.
had a nightmare today, everyone. This is the first time
Professional.
I've
You're an
actually had
absolute
a nightmare with
professional.
recording. But yeah, it's just like having that easy conversation, getting to know people, and they're getting to know you and your podcast and what you're about. But what is the end goal for the podcast? Do you have an aim or a goal rather than, okay, I want this many listens or downloads? What else is there? What's
Get sponsored by Vivo Barefoot, Athletic Greens, and some kind of like cookie company. No, I'm joking. I
is it
am
because you want
joking.
cookies?
I just want cookies. I
Okay.
just need more cookies in my life. No. What is the goal? The goal is just to reach more people, I suppose. Like I enjoy it, so I'm going to do more of it. And if it doesn't grow anymore from where it is now, like I'm okay with that. And I know that sounds really like, yeah, whatever, Sam. But it is kind of like I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep it up. But at the same time, yeah, of course, like I'm putting little things in place to try and grow it because like when more and more people start messaging you saying this podcast has really helped me, it's like then you think, well, that's why I'm trying to grow the podcast. It's not for my own ego, although my own ego does get a bit of a kick out of like the followers and the listeners going up. But it is the fact that like if I'm doing something that's helping people in the world, like let's do more of that. Like I've had people message saying, I went through a breakup and your podcast really helped me. I had people message me saying, I've been through a really dark time recently with my anxiety, and I've listened to a couple of your episodes and I see your posts on social media and it's helped me. And it's like, oh, wow. Like that is, if I can just spend my Friday, a few hours every Friday doing something that then is useful in the world, then I'm going to do more of that. Of course, if there are sponsors listening, if there are people that want to like throw some money at me, that means I can grow it more and maybe spend a bit more of my week doing it, then that's cool. So I'm not like, yeah, I'm not completely immune to that. But yeah, that's the goal. Just grow and try and help people. And yeah.
Okay, well, I rarely do this, but I feel called to do it. So you
Go
have
on.
2 minutes on the clock, and I want
Oh.
you to just plug yourself. Just tell people where they can find you, how they can connect with you, how they can listen to your podcast, where do they go, and just what it's all about, basically. A little bit more info.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can find me on most social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, which is at Samuel CW Hart. And you can listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Over Christmas, one thing I did do is get set up on YouTube, because I don't know if you know, but you can get really easily now, you can set up on YouTube, can't you? Like, and I didn't realize that, but I think it's a recent change. But I did that, and now I'm starting to share more videos there, so that's cool. There's like I'm starting to share shorts on there, as well as like the long form audio of the podcast gets uploaded. I'm not quite at the stage of video podcasts yet, but maybe in the future. So that's where you can connect. And what can I say? You should come and have a listen if you're just interested in a bit of everything like I am. Like I'm interested in running, so I had a running coach on today. I'm interested in the link between food and mental health, so I had a nutritional psychiatrist on. I'm interested in people that work from home and how they can kind of optimize working from home. Had James Hewitt on, which I know you're a big fan of. But there's a whole range of different guests that come on, and so yeah, please come and have a listen, and feedback is welcome.
Thanks, Sam. And just to add in for those who are listening, if you are looking for that adage science info, the adage experts knowledge in their field, go check them out as well. Because even though we try and bring in guests, this is like another level. It's like add it on to your follow list, subscribe to it, just because it's, if you're liking this podcast, this is going to benefit you as well. So we're all about health and wellness, but we approach it in different ways. So Sam, honestly, I'm so grateful for your time and flexibility, of course, as I messed up the timings today. But thank you so much. And we will be in touch soon for sure. I'm like looking forward to our next catch up. But like, this is the first time I've met you, but it's just been a pleasure to have you here.
Oh yeah, likewise. No, thank you for grilling me with the different questions. I really appreciate the opportunity to come onto your show and have a chat. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, Cal, how awesome was our guest? This was such an incredible podcast to like be a part of, right?
Absolutely. It's so interesting, so in depth. There's just so much, I don't know, you got to process a lot of what was said, huh?
I
Yeah.
agree.
And you
I
can
agree.
take little comments and study that. Like it would take you in a whole, not a different direction, but a whole extra direction.
But I always think that if you like, this is a podcast to like listen back on. A lot of times,
Hmm.
if we listen back on, we take on information that we might have missed the first time.
Oh, I do
Yeah,
every
me too.
time. Yes.
Me too.
Yes. Same with books. I can read a book twice or three times and get not a different story out of it, but my focus goes elsewhere for the
Yes.
second reading. And then my focus goes elsewhere for the third one. And go, I missed that. How did I miss that the first two times? Same with the podcasts and guests like that.
But that's all intelligence is. It's picking things that we have read or heard or I don't know, yeah, listened to at some
Mm,
point, and it's regurgitating
mm,
information because we already have that information within us. It's just having that avenue to bring it out in. But I'm excited. I want to know,
yes.
what is your health motivational tip of the day? What would you say is your health motivational tip of the day?
I think you said this a few weeks ago, but you saying before about pretending the floor is lava reminds me of some of the games that I do play with some of the elderly clients to keep them engaged and to make them laugh because, possibly not much makes them laugh these days. But yeah, be more childlike, be more open to having fun with simple things.
Oh, I love
Wholesome
that.
fun. Let me
I
call
love
it that.
that.
Wholesome.
Wholesome
Yeah.
fun. Of course, yeah. And I feel
Yeah.
like we as adults have probably been pushed and pummeled into a certain box in life, or
Yes.
things have kind of kept us down. But it's like when we
Yeah.
tap into our inner child, when we are able to feel that level of freedom, that is pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so
What
much,
about you?
Al.
No, what's your
Ooh,
yes, good girl.
I don't know. I think my health motivational tip is very much, be a little bit more playful. I'm gonna like jump
Yeah.
on your bandwagon because I did
Yeah.
hear it actually a couple of days ago, and I can't
Did
remember
you?
where I heard it or I must have read it, but it literally did say
Mm-hmm.
we need to tap into our playfulness. And like I said earlier, like
Oh, there's a message then. Hearing it
yeah,
over
it's
and
like
over.
go back to that sense of creativity, be bored for a second. Just be bored and see
Yes.
what happens.
Yes. Yes.
Right? When was the last time that you laid on the grass and stared at the clouds and made animal shapes with the clouds? Like,
I do look at clouds and make animals or something out of them
yeah,
often, but
yeah.
I don't lie on the grass and do it. So that's something to add to it
Yeah.
and do. Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of just staring at the night sky, especially if it's a clear night.
Oh, you and
It's
your night
stars
skies.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's almost like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're not into watching clouds or if it's too late
Yeah.
in the northern hemisphere, yeah, do something that ignites your creativity or just kind of makes you aware of how small we are on this tiny earth
Oh,
revolving around the sun,
great. Yeah.
surrounded by billions and billions of galaxies.
Yeah. Yes. It's a good reminder. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well,
Hmm.
Kelly, I appreciate you. I know you've got your guest, Jill, at the moment. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking time out. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you hit the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave us a review on Spotify or on YouTube too. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear how you thought about this.
Yeah. Engage. We would
Yes,
love that.
exactly.
Hmm.
So we'll hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.